Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. Derek here.
Eric here.
How you doing?
Good. Better than Kanye West today.
Yeah. So this is the crumbling of Kanye West's celebrity in real time. It's sort of happening, his business empire that he had built, and it has lots and lots of tentacles in the fashion world, in the music world, in the academic world.
Yeah.
And it's all sort of starting to crumble right before his very eyes. Let's go through what's happening right now.
There are multiple things a day, every day.
There really
so
are.
much is happening.
We don't have just one story. We're going to cover a Kanye block of stories because it's all happening at once. First and foremost, he made a little trip to Skechers. He went to the headquarters of Skechers in the wake of Adidas terminating his deal. So remember, Kanye West, the sort of linchpin of his fashion empire is
billions.
His billionaire status is his deal with Adidas, where he makes his famous Yeezy shoes and so forth. They manufacture them. It's been a massive, massive success. Undeniable.
For everybody involved.
For everyone involved. Made Adidas a lot of money, made Kanye a lot of money, got him into that billionaire status. Well, they cut him off, so he goes to Skechers, and he has a camera crew with him, and I'm going to tell you why I think that's important and how you might read that.
Okay.
So he's at Skechers' main office Monday morning, and he asks to see the CEO. And the CEO is a man, I forget his last name, but it's a Jewish surname.
I believe is it Michael Greenberg?
I think it's Greenberg, yes.
Yeah.
I think his last name's Greenberg, and he demands to speak with Michael Greenberg, or whatever the guy's name is. He is denied, and they say the CEO is not going to come and talk to you and to leave the premises. There's not a sort of physical struggle, but he is escorted off the premises. You're not allowed to be there. We're not gonna take a meeting with you right now. Obviously, his name is under assault, and for obvious reasons, the Skechers CEO is not going to meet with him.
Lots of reasons
in the middle of this maelstrom. But so Kanye West leaves, and there's sort of there's shots of him inside, looking sort of sitting in the waiting room. It's typical Kanye style to sort of ambush and say I demand to speak with the most important person here.
And the thing is, he's
been
able to do that for decades now.
Yes.
And this is the first time we're kind of seeing he doesn't have that clout anymore.
Yes.
The opposite. People are like, absolutely, I do not want to meet with you. I want nothing to do with you. And I find it also interesting.
Everyone used to pick up his phone calls, right? I mean,
course.
He talks about the Adidas CEO, he talks about the Gap CEO, and he loves this. He always likes to name drop his importance about, I was at a meeting with these leading lights of business.
And they're so fortunate to get to meet with me.
Yes, this is a meeting of geniuses. He thinks he's in the chamber of
the
greats.
They don't want anything to do with him. But something I find interesting about this, of course, the only reason you could assume he's at Skechers is to try and get them to do a new Yeezy deal.
Yes.
Because I've seen so many people online saying, well, maybe Kanye's doing this all on purpose to get out of these deals because he wants to do it all himself, that he wants to manufacture and distribute his own shoes, his own line. He doesn't need these other people.
Right.
Well, this kind of makes it look like absolutely he needs other people.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, look, Jay-Z is another huge business mogul who came from the sort of music world first and foremost. He built an agency. Rockefeller is now like an agency, and it's a prominent force. He's got a roster of clients. Kanye sort of seems to want to sort of tout that I can go do this myself. I can buy a factory. I can run a business. But then he's running off to Skechers to sort of figure out how to make his shoes. So maybe he'll start his own business. I think maybe there's another stunt at work here. So Kanye West is sticking with this narrative that the Jews run the media and they've destroyed his life and so forth. I think he went to Skechers to sort of have the door slammed in his face to prove this narrative in his mind. Because bringing the camera crew, I don't know if he expected to have the meeting or to expect it to show, see, this is what happens. This is what the Jews do to you. Look at this guy, Greenberg, and foster more hate.
I've seen
or
people
sort of
saying that, so many comments, people are like, well, all these cancellations just prove his point.
Yes.
I'm like, but that makes no sense. If I say you run things and then I insult you, especially given the history with anti-Semitism, we're not that far removed from 6 million people being murdered over it.
Yes.
Then for people to not want to associate with him, you've said these hateful things, that doesn't prove him right.
It doesn't.
It proves him hateful.
It just proves you hateful. And these are businessmen. You have a sort of businesses about human relationships. That's what business is. They don't want to work with you if you're fomenting hatred against their group.
There are lots of non-Jewish CEOs also dropping Kanye and want nothing to do with him right now.
It doesn't mean they control the media. It means they don't want to work with you because you seem like a hate monger. And to say this fulfills your narrative, this is not clever. It's also, you pointed out that we're not that far from World War II and Hitler. He's using that playbook. That's what's so offensive is Goebbels used to say the Jews ran the media. Hitler scapegoated the Jews after World War I for all the problems economically that Germany was facing. What Kanye is doing is not profound, new, or interesting to people. It's old. It's hate-filled. We've done these arguments before, and that's why he's being isolated. He wants to say, like, I'm speaking truth to power. No, you're not. You're using the Nazi playbook.
That's the thing. Just, we saw very recently in Los Angeles a group of actual literal Nazis, not throwing the word out, they are Nazis, held up banners over an overpass in Los Angeles that said Kanye was right.
Yes.
If you're defending Kanye, ask yourself why you're agreeing with Nazis. And literal Nazis.
That's
people
right.
giving the Nazi salute. Like, why? If you're agreeing with them, maybe question your choices there.
We say this expression, strange bedfellows. You've heard that expression. Like, you sort of, at some point, have to look around and say, who are my allies in this fight? And if the allies around you are the most deplorable members of society, maybe you win astray at some point, because Kanye wasn't always in bed with the most deplorable elements of society.
He was
He
not.
used to be a leader of the sort of progressive wing. When he got on television and said George W. Bush doesn't care about black people, he was a hero to me, to
a lot of people,
to a lot of communities. He was
saying something that a lot of people were afraid to say.
Correct. And he does have a certain courage to him, but he has now perverted that courage. Now he thinks this is courageous. You know that, right? Kanye says, I'm saying something that is verboten.
The free thinker thing.
Exactly.
Why is free thinking always hateful thinking?
It's very sad. So let's
There's more Kanye fallout.
More Kanye. Tell us about what's going on with Donda Academy, because this is a more interesting sort of gloss on this. But go on.
Yeah. So Kanye has his Donda Academy, which has about 100 students.
It's a high school.
Yeah, and it's not accredited. And that is his free thinking thing. Of they teach parkour and like social influencing and other things. The principal of the school, Jason Angel, sent out an email to the families saying there's no school tomorrow, there's no school for the rest of the semester. It said at the discretion of our founder, which is Kanye, that that they're closing. And the funny thing is they said that we're confident that we'll open in the fall.
Right.
Why would you send your kids back? Because now there are lots of parents of 100 kids are scrambling to figure out, what do I do with my kids for the rest of the year?
That's the thing that makes me sort of very, very sad about Kanye West, is the irresponsibility of 100 students. Now, it's okay to have this weird philosophy that goes around now. Peter Thiel has this where we shouldn't be teaching rote subjects, science and stuff. We should have a more open idea of what it is to succeed and teach parkour and all these kind of things. I'm actually okay with that. If that's your philosophy and you subscribe to it, okay. But you have now taken on the responsibility of young minds and young, sort of futures at stake, and it's so cavalier. Now he's out there recklessly saying things that cast this school in a terrible light, cast his own mother's name in a terrible light. Donda, I don't know Donda personally or know all that much about her, but I sense that she was a leveling force for Kanye West.
She was. Definitely not the levels we're seeing right now, but there were changes in his life after she passed.
Sure.
I think he's struggled with that ever since it happened, which is sad. But Kanye's always mercurial, and he'll say one thing one day and then do something the next, and he changes his mind, and that's fine. He can do that. But you can't do that with a school, because now it's not just affecting him or affecting his businesses. This is 100 kids and their families and
they're scrambling.
All the employees there. And the thing I think is interesting that Kanye posted. He goes, "Here's the clout you're looking for. My school is being shut down." Sort of making himself the victim. Like, look what you did.
Yes.
The email from the principal says, at the discretion of our founder.
Yes.
So no, Kanye, your school wasn't being shut down. You did it. This was your decision.
It's so strange to hear these resentments, and he is painting himself as the ultimate victim. Even though he's a sort of billionaire and has all of this success, he's like, I'm a victim of the Jewish media. I'm a victim of being shut down by censor and cancel culture. Yet part of his political philosophy is the black community needs to stop feeling like victims and needs to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. He's sort of aligned himself with the hard right. So I don't know how he reconciles his victimhood.
He is such a textbook narcissist.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can see that. And the thing with narcissists, they are either the hero or the victim, but never the villain. Mm-hmm. Kanye is a genius. He's Picasso. He's Disney. He's the greatest innovator of all time. Or nobody is more put upon than him. It's never... you know what? Maybe I made a mistake.
Yeah.
That's never happened in decades of his fame.
The absence of moderation in their thought process is so apparent, especially when he's on one of these runs. I mean, even when he's not, he's never sort of just normal hunky-dory,
it's always kind of extreme one way or another.
And that's fun, but... Wow, when it goes awry. When it goes awry,
and it
we're
keeps
in the middle of this.
going awry.
So he's back on Instagram.
He's back on Instagram, and He said, "Yeah, I lost $2 billion in one day."
Referring to the Adidas deal.
Yeah, and
Now, to be clear, he didn't lose $2 billion out of his bank account. No one went in and stole $2 billion. His net worth is a function of his partnerships and his business deals. It's all about the future earnings prospects. That's how Forbes cranks out these numbers and says, this guy's worth this much. It's based on their stock holdings, and what that stock represents is future earnings. So when he loses that partnership, he loses all of that. And all he has is what's in his bank account. He has the net worth that you and I have now, which is
I don't think he has
No, not the same net worth.
I'm pretty sure his net worth's way nicer than mine.
But it's measured the same way ours is, by looking just in his bank account. He probably has hundreds of millions of dollars. He's not.
I'm sure he does.
He's not poor. He has a lot of cash.
Of course not.
He has lost all of his business empire, which hits your net worth.
And that's the thing is, for anything Kanye's ever done, he's always been sort of controversial or whatever. He had that sort of reputation and that clout, and this is the first time we've ever seen he's losing that.
Yes.
For him to show up to Skechers and be turned away. And a lot of people are starting to see him as sort of, if not as a bad guy, as sort of a joke.
Yes.
He's becoming a meme. It's
which is the worst thing that can happen to a narcissist.
He becomes uncool. He becomes undervalued as a creative person. And I think those are the things that will hurt him a lot. And money's money. And like you said, even if he loses $2 billion or whatever, he's still very, very wealthy.
Fine. He's not going into the poorhouse. But you're right.
Kanye's not somebody, I don't know. I play an armchair psychiatrist here, but I don't think he's really driven by money for the sake of it.
I don't either.
I think he likes having all that money as a reflection of, look how successful I am, look how creative and smart I am.
He's driven by influence and power.
And ego.
And ego.
When that goes away, that will hurt.
So my question is, he brings the camera crew, and my sense is he gets rejected, but he then folds that into his narrative rather than taking it as a hit to his ego. So I think when Skechers doesn't want to speak to him, you and I say he's becoming a joke, he's becoming a pariah from society. He says this is only proving my point and starts to lash out further. The problem with Kanye is he's not taking any lessons from the right lessons from going to Skechers and being turned away at the door. He's taking the wrong lesson.
Yeah.
It's emboldening.
It's vindicating what he said to him.
It's vindicating him. And the problem is he's not going to sink into depression and put his tail between his legs. That's not Kanye.
No.
He's like Donald Trump. I don't want to sort of overstate,
there's
but
a lot of
there's
similarities.
a parallel in the narcissism. What they do is they lash out at the haters because the haters just don't get the genius.
And like Trump, they have those supporters that are ride or die with him no matter what. There are so many people that are changing their way of thinking to match Kanye's because they can't conceive of a reason that he would be wrong.
Right. But then again, you look around at your bedfellows at the end of the day, and it's not going to be the people you want to hang out with. He loved being with the Kim Kardashians and the glitz and the glamour. That's not those people. Those aren't the people that are going to go to your concerts now.
Yeah.
And I think his eyes will open at some point when he's opening to a sea of people that he doesn't really want to be around.
And so again, to all the people that think, well, maybe he's right. You question why you believe what you believe and look at what the consequences are. I ask, well, why do I think he's wrong? And again, to me, the things he's saying, as we said earlier, we've seen this play out in history before, and it led to 6 million people being murdered.
Yeah.
This goes nowhere good.
It's very dangerous where it goes.
And history's proven this.
All right, let's move on to something
the
related,
Kardashians.
but
Always
not
got to go from
directly
Kanye to the
related.
Kardashians. Somehow
It's
that was connected.
Kardashians.
Khloe maybe finally has learned her lesson with Tristan Thompson. I think there will be no more getting back together for them. It's actually maybe really, really, really done this time. So
it's like the Taylor Swift song, never,
yeah,
ever,
we are never, ever getting back
back together. All right, fine.
So they were doing a screening.
I don't believe it, by the way, but go on.
No, I think this is it. They did a screening of an episode of the Kardashians, I guess, and Khloe was there. And I guess when they were showing it, Tristan popped up on screen. And I had this to say.
Hopefully be able to expand our family one day, God willing.
Liar! I felt as if the whole theater was staring at me. And I was just like, this is so awkward. Because it's like, what a crock of shit. What the and I believed you, and I was listening to you, and I was receiving everything you said. But you're a liar!
So he said, I want to expand the family. She screamed, liar, and the audience laughed. And then on the confessional on the show, she realizes now, he wanted to expand the family. And she says, I believed you, not knowing he was already expanding his other family with someone else. there's no coming back from that. I think this is the one.
It's curdled to anger. I think we've passed denial. We're at anger. She is liar. I still think she has several stages to go as she processes what's going on. The interesting thing is when a sort of charmer who is duping women gets exposed, and it does dawn on you. It's sort of the end of Usual Suspects, the Kaiser Sose moment. Then
Spoiler.
everything. Yes, sorry, but when you notice, everything starts to collapse all at once, and now every word you hear out of that guy's mouth is disgusting.
And you realize it was all
a
fraud.
Yes,
and that's the thing.
and she
Khloe
seems to be there.
Has always famously, people talk about her like taking her men back and being so forgiving. The most famous example of that is Lamar Odom.
Yes.
The difference is, and I think this is why Khloe, I think she still loves Lamar.
Yeah.
And there's a sadness because for all the things Lamar did and all the things he might have put her through,
he was deeply in the throes of addiction.
He was an addict, and it was sad, and she was concerned about his life. You know, like she's like, I we can't be together, but I love you enough that I don't want you to be dead.
Yes.
There's not that with Tristan. Not saying that she wants him to be dead, but you know what I mean?
No, there's a sense with Tristan
like he deliberately
he behaves like a sociopath. And
he charms her and she falls for it.
We treat sociopaths as irredeemable. Those are people that you just shouldn't sort of deal with. They are the true evils of society. Although query whether a sociopath is also suffering from some sort of mental ailment. That's not how we think of it. We think of serial killers, people who are able to sort of manipulate humans in that way. We don't have sympathy for. But addicts, we do. They're suffering from a disease. It's sort of a...
they would want to be better if they could. And I think Khloe always tried to help him.
There's a good person underneath
But with Tristan, it's like, like on Peanuts when Lucy's got the football and Charlie runs and she yanks it away at the last minute. Tristan's Lucy and Khloe's been Charlie Brown a long time. And maybe this time she's finally going to stop trying to kick that football because...
Does it open the door for someone like Lamar? Because I always hear rumblings in the media of Lamar always says very positive things about Khloe.
He does. We've gotten him, and he's said amazing things about her. And I think she would probably say good things about him.
Yes, but she wouldn't go back into...
No.
And it's not because she's a bad person.
She's tried that so many times. You can't save somebody else if they can't save themselves.
Right.
And
what
she
if he were
learned that.
sober for 5 to 10 years? There seems to be like a flickering light between those two. It was really a lovely time for both of them. They were really in love, it seemed to me. And then he went down a very dark path, ends up in Vegas at the whorehouse and the whole thing.
Yeah,
it was ugly. There was an ugly
really
sort
bad.
of period, but maybe there's a flicker of something. It wouldn't surprise me if she was like, you know what, I've always loved Lamar, and he's healthy now, and let me fold him back into my life. It would be a shock. I'm not saying it's a high probability.
But would it be a shock at this point with the Kardashians? Kind of nothing shocks me anymore.
Yeah, if it suits the ratings.
She could wind up having another baby with Tristan. And I'd be like, well, I'm not that...
Their life is a choose-your-own-adventure based on television ratings. It's just like, it almost seems if the viewers voted for Lamar, we'd see it happen. Right? Anyway, so let's move on to another big piece of news. This is business news. Elon Musk has now, formally announced that I'm closing this deal with Twitter. I'm going to buy it for $44 billion. Right. Remember, he offered to buy it for $54.20 a share, which is his version of a joke on the internet. He always puts $4.20 in it. So $54.20. It's wildly overpaying for Twitter. Even Elon Musk acknowledges that. That's why he tried to get out of the deal. It got even worse when the economy collapsed and the share price dropped even more. There was a lawsuit and so forth. But they've come to an agreement that he's going to buy the company. And he tweeted about it to explain his reasoning behind buying the deal, behind buying the company. And here's what he had to say. He said, "There's currently a great danger that social media will splinter into far right-wing and far left-wing echo chambers that generate more hate and divide in our society. In the relentless pursuit of clicks, much of traditional media has fueled and catered to those polarized extremes as they believe that is what brings in the money. But in doing so, the opportunity for dialogue is lost." So he always said, I want to attack the spam bots. I want to open up as a public forum. Twitter should be a public, open forum, and they are canceling too many people and kicking them off the platform, and that's further dividing the country because we're not talking.
To an extent,
what do you think of that?
I agree with him.
I do too.
I do think, obviously, you look at any social media, it's very polarized. People are constantly attacking each other, and he is true, like a lot of media, how many times do you see a story that's, outrage over this or outrage over that? Outrage on Twitter could be 15 people.
Yep.
But then that gets so amplified because people will click on that.
Yes.
Because then they are outraged by the outrage, and it fuels itself. And he's right about that.
And we retreat into our silos where other people agree with us and we don't talk to the other side.
Sure.
Yes.
We're all guilty of that one way or the other.
Sure.
One thing, though, Elon goes on to say that he thinks that, by lifting all these kind of restrictions and things, that people can...
Letting Donald Trump back on.
Anybody can, disseminate the news without media bias. And that sounds good.
Yes.
You're giving people a lot of credit because people, both sides, I will be fair and say both sides post a lot of things that you're just like, well, that's not true. Like you can, it's very easily proven that what you're posting is not true.
Yes.
A quick Google search will reveal to you, or look at the source of what you're posting.
Yes.
You know, if it
Does the right have a sense, though, that we are, so both sides, you say, are posting absurd things, but they feel under assault. They feel like the people being excluded from the platform are their tribe, the far right. And he is, I think, signaling that he's going to open that all up. He's saying it does feel at least disproportionately that the right is being kicked off the platform. So when I let everyone back in, what I'm really letting in is the right that's been kicked off by Twitter. Now, he doesn't say it's going to be a sort of, there won't be a transition where it's really rocky. It's going to be an ugly place, is my sense. When you let all those horribles back onto the platform,
because the thing you got to remember,
be ugly.
Before people started getting kicked off Twitter and banned and whatever, just a couple years ago, it was awful.
Yes.
Not that it's great now.
Yes.
But I think, and maybe this is going to, I don't know how this will help Elon trying to be profitable with Twitter. It is kind of a dying platform because people who aren't extreme are just so put off of it.
Yes.
Either way, like you just see it. Even sometimes, people I agree with, I'll see them post things and I'm like, this is so extreme and insane. I don't even want to interact with it anymore.
Is it bad for Twitter to be sort of like this extreme place? Like, I guess I don't see Twitter as needing to be this level, like sort of exchange of ideas.
No,
That's
it's
not
not
what
that.
Twitter has ever been. It's condensed sort of thoughts that are intended to be provocative because you're forced to sort of condense complicated ideas that deserve paragraphs and books into a soundbite. That's what Twitter is. It is a limited
and
number
the more
of characters.
outrageous the soundbite, the more people will hear it.
The more people will hear it.
The more you'll see it, the more it'll get retweeted.
He wants it to be raucous, and he thinks like the marketplace of ideas should be a raucous place, and it's not for the thin-skinned. And maybe it will exist. I think fewer people will like it. I think it will be a public marketplace for ideas, but because it'll be such an eyesore and
not
so
all those
raucous,
ideas need
fewer
to be
people. Well, fewer
amplified.
people will use it, maybe then, right? And is that okay?
I mean, that's what we're seeing. Fewer people are using it.
Yeah.
And I saw a study once. This was years ago. It's probably even worse now. That I forget like 10% or something of U.S. adults use Twitter, and then like 10% of that 10% creates like 90% of the content.
Yes.
So you actually have not that many people really getting their ideas out there. And anytime I open Twitter, I see the same 5 or 6 people over and over and over. And I don't know if that's just the algorithms, or it's just those are the only people using it anymore.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, look, he's a guy who has built many companies. Twitter's in a tough place financially. No one would dispute that. That's what their own, sort of financial records show.
That's why they're happy to sell it.
So, people are investing. He's going to shake things up. I mean, that's what he does. He's a visionary. Whether it'll work, I have a lot of doubts, and a lot of even the economic community says like, wow, you're really overpaying. This business will never make a lot of money, even if you do all these things. But we'll see.
Maybe that
curious.
is why, because he is a businessman. And I said maybe opening it back up, allowing more of the more extreme things in, will keep it going.
Yeah,
even
keep
if
it
it's
relevant.
a smaller audience, it'll be a more intense audience.
Yes.
That will keep it floating. Because like I said, if people just agree with each other,
It's boring.
it's boring. That doesn't get clicks.
It's boring.
And that's ideal for our society, but it's bad for business. And Elon Musk is a businessman. So
That's right. That's
how
right.
much does he really mean what he's saying?
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't
We'll
know.
see. And one more thing though, he's already the richest man in the world. He seems to have like sort of values that he wants to put out there, but he also is a capitalist, right? He wants to make
course he
money.
is.
You don't want to lose $50 billion.
That's why he went to court over Twitter in the first place, because he said it's not worth what I'm paying for it.
Correct.
It's about business.
Correct. All right, last story.
Something unrelated to all of that.
Matthew Perry. So Matthew Perry, he has a new memoir out. He was talking with Diane Sawyer. He's in the news again. He was obviously Chandler, very famous from the show Friends. He's battled addiction for years and sort of been one of these figures in pop culture that have been sort of a sad sort of decline after a period of greatness.
And I think people have always rooted for him because everybody, like you said earlier about Lamar, like, with addicts, you want to see them get better. And especially because everybody loved Chandler.
Yes.
But he took it a bridge too far. He made some people angry.
Made a sort of comment in his book. Here was the comment. He said, the terrible thing is that we are losing all these leading lights. He says, why is it that original thinkers like River Phoenix and Heath Ledger die? Obviously pointing to the fact that they died from drug addictions. But Keanu Reeves still walks among us. Now, it always seemed to be the really talented guys who go down. So everyone said, well, geez, what a pot shot at Keanu Reeves.
And then he did it again later in the book, talking about Chris Farley. He talked about Chris Chris Farley's death, and then goes, but Keanu Reeves still walks among us.
Correct. And now he's saying, like, I chose a random name. So this is his apology. I'm actually a big fan of Keanu. I just chose a random name. My mistake. I apologize. False.
He says, I should
don't
have used
like
my
apologies.
own name instead.
False. I don't like these apologies. And I'll tell you why. This is not a random name.
It's not.
People like Eric and I, Keanu Reeves of the late 80s and early 90s.
And Matthew Perry's older than either one of us.
Correct.
He's in his 50s.
Yes.
And
Keanu was
the
a
thing is-
stand-in for, like, whoa acting.
Yeah.
Not real
I
acting.
don't think this really was an attack on Keanu Reeves necessarily. I don't think he has any issue
He's
with
a
Keanu Reeves.
placeholder
And
for an
everybody
idea.
likes him. He's a really genuinely pretty good guy.
Correct.
The thing is,
And actually a capable actor in his own way.
oh sure, he's got some amazing performances, but
early in his
of Matthew
career.
Perry's sort of when he was coming up, it was Bill and Ted.
Yes.
And
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Whoa, acting. Like,
yeah, and
not
Point
real
Break,
acting. Point
and
Break.
Keanu Reeves was
surfer acting.
People still liked him.
Yes.
And he was successful, but
Very
as
handsome.
an actor, he was considered kind of a joke
Yes.
back then. And in that era of River Phoenix, and Heath Ledger, who were like these, really respected actors.
Interestingly, River Phoenix in a movie with Keanu Reeves, my own private Idaho.
So
but
I think Matthew
River
Perry
Phoenix was
was
seen as the, like, brooding Leo DiCaprio of his age,
Yeah, so
Yes.
I think Matthew Perry was dusting off kind of a dated joke.
Yes.
And then by referencing it again, it was just a callback to the joke.
Correct.
And
But it is not a random name. And
It
he
is not
shouldn't
a
have said
random
that.
name.
I thought he should have said, look, Keanu has had a wonderful career. Obviously, what he's done with John Wick and these recent performances is a far cry from his early ditzy days in acting. Because even Keanu has a sense of humor about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure
Yeah.
and Point Break and what he was doing in those roles. It wasn't serious
even though also
acting.
those are kind of awesome movies.
They're all iconic. So he was doing
Speed
something
even, like,
genius. Speed.
yeah.
But he was referencing something that was kind of a hacky
he was
80s
making
and 90s
sort of an
joke.
old man, and as a dated joke that I think a lot of people didn't even get that it used to be a joke.
Yes.
Because we live in the era where, there's so many of his movies are so kind of beloved,
Yes.
and he's respected as an actor to some extent, and people just love him.
Yes.
So it seems like he's like punching down at the nice guy.
It does seem that way.
And I don't think he meant it that way. I think he was just like, oh, Keanu Reeves was like the go-to punchline. Like back in the 90s, Brad Pitt was the go-to handsome guy.
Correct.
It's just certain people were certain things.
Yes, and so this is also emblematic of all of our broader discussion. This is what I sort of hate about where the world is, that Matthew Perry, who writes a stupid joke that doesn't land, has to issue a formal apology to Keanu Reeves, who probably doesn't even want the apology because
I don't
understood
think
the joke.
Keanu
to be-
Reeves, he
so
definitely
silly.
remembers that point in his career.
Why do
And
we
he-
live in this world, though, where Matthew
don't
Perry
know.
has to explain the Keanu Reeves joke and has to apologize
Because
for
it was
and
almost
call
30
it a
years
random
ago.
name?
People don't know that joke anymore.
Are you happy that he said it's a random name? Like,
He should not have
who's
said it's a
happy with
random
this?
name. He should have said, you know what, I was just playing off of an old joke stereotype.
Yeah, didn't land.
It didn't
sorry.
land. I'm sorry. It was a bad joke. Sorry, Keanu, you're a nice guy.
Yeah. Anyway, I look at this stuff and I'm like, it makes me even more sad. Like, let's let Matthew Perry write his silly memoir and make his bad fit guys in their
It's a
50
Chandler
joke.
joke is what
It's
it
a
is.
Chandler
It's a
joke.
Chandler
Watch that
joke.
show. A lot of it is cringe these days. It's a lot of gay panic. Friends should have been called Gay Panic because the whole premise of his characters and
Chandler
Joey
was always
was
terrified. People thought he was gay.
Yeah,
and-
it's a lot of
yeah.
gay panic. And look, the show is it's an artifact of the 90s. That
Yeah.
was considered very, very funny and one of the most popular shows. And now it's like, some of the jokes are a little cringy. That happens with all television.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it for us today. We'll see you guys tomorrow.